Hi everyone. I keep asking myself, what is it that we've ever learned from Brittany Higgins and Grace Tame? And whether or not we are cognizant of any change whatsoever that's happened in this space in relation to sexual assault and childhood abuse. And the answer to me is probably very little. Because one of the things that does stand out to me is how often the people that come out and declare the damage that has been done to them as a result of these types of abuses are the ones who are, how can I put it, somehow victimised by the public for any comments they make about their experiences and the work that they are doing in order to change the landscape. And we've seen some horrific things happen to both of these wonderful women as a result of the speeches that they've given, the inflections in their eyes as they look away from Morrison or whatever. And people just want to attack them. I mean, that the tall poppy syndrome in Australia is live and well, and is being propagated by the media, by those people out there that are commenting on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and whatever. And I really think that we need to start taking stock of why it is that we're doing this. What is there in it for us that makes us want to propagate distrust, dishonesty, that makes us want to look the other way, to change our vision somewhat away from the issues which these people are raising. And I often think because, it's like a person who has misogynistic views is simply a misogynist. It's as simple as that. That if you can't see that your views are anti-women, if you happen to be making statements that are that misrepresent the gay and the LGBTQI plus community, and you're rallying against that community, then clearly you are prejudiced. If you've got views that are anti-Asian or anti-Indigenous or whatever, then clearly you're racist. To say that you're not, like if you've got a view that is supportive of one of these groups, then air that view, because it's about being supportive of them, not critical of them. Once we become critical of them, we're holding a completely different perspective. I guess this is this woke thing, isn't it? That when people choose to be critical, they get lambasted for being critical. And I guess the argument is, well, sometimes there's nothing wrong with offering a critique, but sometimes those critiques are just covered in all sorts of prejudices, and we need to call them out. You can critique somebody and not make it about their race. You can critique somebody and not make it about their sense of victimhood. You can critique somebody and make it a genuine contribution to the conversation. But the way people critique these people make it appear that it's about how can I put it? It's a version that is extremely counter to what these people are standing for. So, and obviously when it's that blatantly obvious, then clearly it's racism, or it's misogyny, or it's something else. It's like when guys talk about parental alienation, and I think, yeah, I agree. There's a lot of parental alienation going on. I understand that. But when they make it just about the women alienating children from them, then that's misogyny. Because men do it as well. Both parties do it, right? But when you choose one party over another, one group of people over another, then you're into that realm of prejudice. So what I wanted to raise about Brittany was this article that was in the monthly, and so it's 1 year actually today or thereabouts that Brittany Higgins' allegations came to the fore, and this was all came about because she was inspired by Grace Tame's speech, and it was really interesting that they both should present, I think, last week at the press club. But, at the end of the day, they both have these different perspectives because they had different issues, but they're just as relevant to today, and they are being lambasted by a whole host of people who just don't like them because they have become significant. And I guess a lot of people perhaps resent the fact, are jealous of the fact, if you like, that these women have a voice and they don't. And I don't know whether the other people that are jealous have got a voice of anything worth noting, but, so they go onto social media, they have a go at these people, and obviously, because of that, that's their voice, I guess, and they feel a little bit empowered by this. As journalist Samantha Maiden, who first reported Higgins' story, tweeted this morning, much has happened in the intervening year, both good and bad. Higgins and Tame have permanently changed the conversations around the treatment of women in politics and society at large, and their actions have prompted several other women to speak out. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But it does tend to put pressure on those that they're speaking out against, those that perpetuate these violent and abusive behaviours, and who do not take responsibility for what it is that they've done and how that's impacted others. Which makes it all more disappointing that we are again dealing with revolting smears against women who report abuse, including from women inside the government. It is a disgrace. A Liberal senator has overnight ripped into Alan Tudge's accuser. So Alan Tudge was the Minister for Education, I think, and he was accused by a worker with whom he had a relationship, and she accused him of psychological and physical abuse. Physical abuse on one occasion. Doesn't matter. Physical abuse is physical abuse. A Liberal senator ripped into... and this is what they do. And this, I guess, I've worked in this area for many, many years. And the attack on women in particular in relation to their mental well-being is an old ploy by many men who wish to judge women for their forthrightness, their honesty, and their need to protect themselves and their children from an abuser. And so I remember many years ago, since about 25 years ago, I guess, I was working with a client who was heavily sedated at the time. And she came to me because I was working in the gambling field, so it was about gambling issues. She certainly had a need to get rid of whatever was happening to her. She chose gambling as the source. But so this was a middle-class family to start with. And she came to me and she was really hard to work with because she was so freaking full of psychotropic drugs. And later on, though, she came to me and after a number of sessions, and she was in a much better state, and she could talk to me about the abuse that was happening in her home. And he actually was a public servant, I think. So she came to me anyway, and she talked about this abuse and so forth. The next time I wasn't able to speak to her for some time because she kind of just vanished. And then she contacted me some months later, and she told me that he had had her placed under, or sectioned under Section 21 of the Mental Health Act, and placed into a psychiatric institution. Now, he'd done this many times before, and this was his means of controlling her. the sad thing was, I thought at the time, was that they need 2 psychiatrists to be able to do that, to get a treatment order, and he was able to do that. So there's some psychiatrists out there, stupid pricks, who went along with him and did what he asked of them. And she told me, though, that he objected to her talking to the television set. Now, I don't know whether you or I have, well, I know I've done this. I've yelled at the TV set on many occasions because I'm yelling at someone who's done something stupid. I used to watch Bill O'Reilly, and my family used to be amused at the fact that I was always swearing at Bill O'Reilly because I think he's such a dick. And I'll be sitting in one room and I'll be swearing at the TV set and swearing at him in the other room, right? So she was doing something similar to that. And because he needed to control her, he chose to suggest that she was psychotic and that she was talking to the television set. So that was kind of what was happening. And it was sad to see, because she's the loveliest woman, but it was sad to see how manipulative this guy was in controlling her. So whenever I see statements like someone was raising someone else's mental health issue, which is what they're doing with regard to this minister who hopefully will be sacked, is Alan Tudge. So her mental health and her allegations of abuse by Tudge, which he denies. Of course he does. I have yet to meet a guy who was accused of something and then said, yep, I did it. I abused her. I mentally... It would be nice, and it would be kind of refreshing if someone stood up at the moment that they're accused and said, yep, I've done it. I shouldn't have done it. I regret having done it, and I'm working so that I never will do that again. How nice would that be? But that doesn't happen. Meanwhile, the media is focused on what the Prime Minister's wife thinks of Thames Manor. So we've got this thing of Tudge, someone questioning this woman who was assaulted by him, allegedly, and then a wife's about Higgins, about Tame. So the media is focused on what the Prime Minister's wife thinks of Thames Manners, with an appalling hit piece on Tame to boot. 1 year on from Higgins' brave stand, 1 week on from Parliament's apology to the victims of toxic culture, the government still can't seem to get this right. At best, fumbling, and at worst, actively silencing women, but always putting electoral considerations above all else. And you do have to wonder who it is that they think they're appealing to by these defending these people that are making these horrific allegations against either of these 2 women, and whether it be Brittany Higgins or Grace Tame. Because, you know, I can understand that people might find Grace in particular extremely forthright. You know, it was interesting how at the press club, when they asked questions in relation to how she thought about Morrison, she cleverly chose to say nothing because she knew that it was just going to turn into a bum fight if she said something detrimental of Morrison. It is somewhat a shame that other people don't think the same of her, and that they should learn to shut up, recognise the problems that these 2 women are attempting to address, and find ways to help them to address them rather than continue the abuse. The interesting thing about Grace was that the abuse that she receives from people now and the gaslighting that happens is no different from the type of gaslighting and emotional abuse she suffered as a teenager when she was being sexually abused by her teacher. And why people can't even just grasp that concept, you know? Don't say these nasty things about these people because you're just re-traumatising them. Now, people will argue, well, they put themselves out in the open, so what can you expect? Well, actually, we can expect people to behave appropriately, and so they should. But Regretfully, they don't. What do you think? You've got a comment, put it down below. If you'd like to subscribe to my my channel, please do so. That would be really nice. I'd like to get as many subscribers as we can, and also ring the bell so that you can get notifications. Thanks everybody. Take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.